Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a world without phones, without the internet, without movies. A world where flying machines were only a dream, where the idea of aliens felt impossible, where no one truly imagined traveling through time. This was the world in 1866. And in this world, a poor baby was born. His name was Herbert George Wells. He had no money, no powerful connections, no famous family. But this boy would do something extraordinary. He would imagine the future. Long before most people believed it could exist, he would write about time travel, alien invasions, and powerful weapons, ideas that would later become real in different ways. Today, you will hear his story, a story of pain, of failure, of courage. A story that might change how you see your own life. Stay with me. This journey begins now. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Found Freedom in Books. Imagine a world without movies. Imagine a world without television. Imagine a time when people could not see aliens on a screen. They could not watch machines fly through the sky. They could not see cars driving themselves. This was the world long ago. It was the year 1866. In this world, a baby was born. His name was Herbert Wells. Most people know him as H.G. Wells. He was born in a small town in England. The town was called Bromley. It was near the big city of London. But Herbert did not live in a big house. He did not live in a palace. His family was very poor. Think about your own home. Think about the room you are in now. Now, picture Herbert's home. It was small. It was dark. The walls were thin. You could hear the neighbors talking. You could hear the rain hitting the roof. Herbert's father worked in a shop. He also played cricket, which is a sport, but he did not make much money. Herbert's mother worked as a servant. She cleaned houses for other people. Life was hard for them. They did not have much food. They did not have warm clothes in the winter. But Herbert had something special. He had a mind that could fly. Even when his body was stuck in a small room, his mind could travel anywhere. When Herbert was 7 years old, something important happened. It was an accident. He was playing outside with other boys. They were running. They were laughing. But Herbert fell down. He fell very hard. He broke his leg. The bone inside his leg snapped. It was very painful. He could not walk. He could not run. He could not play with his friends. For many weeks, Herbert had to stay in bed. Imagine being a young boy. You want to run. You want to jump. But you must lie still. The days felt very long. The house was quiet. Herbert felt lonely. He felt bored. But his father had an idea. His father brought him books. These books were not school books. They were storybooks. They were adventures. Herbert opened the first book. He began to read. As he read, the room disappeared. The pain in his leg disappeared. He was not in a small bed in Bromley anymore. He was in a castle. He was on a ship. He was in a forest. As you listen, notice the word imagination. It means the ability to create pictures in your mind. Herbert's imagination was very strong. He read every book he could find. He read about history. He read about science. He read about strange lands. The books became his friends. They taught him that the world was bigger than his small town. This accident changed his life. If he did not break his leg, he might not have read so many books. If he did not read so many books, he might not have become a writer. Sometimes, a bad thing can lead to a good thing. This is a lesson for you. When you have a problem, look for the good side. Herbert grew stronger. His leg healed. He could walk again. But he did not forget the books. He loved them more than ever. He went to a small school nearby. He was a smart boy. He learned quickly. The teachers liked him. They saw that he was different. He asked many questions. He wanted to know how things worked. He wanted to know why the sky was blue. He wanted to know how plants grew. But life was not easy for poor boys in those days. Most poor boys did not go to high school. They went to work. They worked in factories. They worked in shops. They worked from morning until night. Herbert's family needed money. So, when Herbert was 14 years old, his schooling stopped. He had to leave the classroom. He had to start working. This was a sad moment for Herbert. He loved learning. He loved studying. But now, he had to become a worker. He did not have a choice. His family needed his help. So, he said goodbye to his books. He said goodbye to his teachers. He walked out of the school gate. He did not know it then, but this was not the end of his education. It was just a pause. Think about this moment. Imagine you have a dream, but you must stop your dream to work. How would you feel? Herbert felt sad. He felt afraid. He did not know what his future would be. He only knew that he had to be brave. He had to help his mother and father. So, he took a deep breath. He walked into the world of work. This story helps you improve your listening skills. Listen to the feelings in the story. Feel the sadness of leaving school. Feel the hope of the books. These emotions are universal. Every person feels them. Herbert stood at the crossroads of his life. One path was dark. It was the path of work and poverty. The other path was bright. It was the path of knowledge and dreams. At this moment, it looked like he would have to take the dark path. But Herbert had a fire inside him. The fire was his love for stories. The fire was his love for science. That fire would not go out. It would wait. It would wait for the right time to burn bright again. Chapter 2. Trapped in a life he did not want. Herbert started his new job. He was an apprentice. An apprentice is a young person who learns a trade. He worked for a draper. A draper is a person who sells cloth and fabric. The shop was in Windsor. It was a different town. Herbert had to leave his family. He had to live in the shop. Imagine the shop. It was full of rolls of cloth. There was silk. There was wool. There was cotton. The air smelled like dust and old fabric. It was dark inside. The windows were small. Herbert worked long hours. He woke up early. He went to bed late. He folded cloth all day. He measured cloth all day. He served customers all day. The owner of the shop was strict. He wanted the work done perfectly. If Herbert made a mistake, he was punished. If Herbert was slow, he was shouted at. Herbert did not like this life. He hated folding cloth. He hated measuring fabric. He wanted to write. He wanted to learn. He wanted to think. But here, he was just a pair of hands. He was not a mind. He was not a person with dreams. He was a worker. Every night, Herbert was tired. His body was exhausted. But his mind was still active. He lay in his small bed in the back of the shop. It was quiet. The customers were gone. The owner was asleep. Herbert could not sleep. He thought about his future. He thought about the books he read as a child. He missed them. He wanted to read more. So, Herbert made a secret plan. He hid books under his bed. He hid books in the shelves of cloth. When the owner was not looking, Herbert read. He read for 10 minutes. He read for 20 minutes. He stole time from his work to feed his mind. This was dangerous. If the owner caught him, he could lose his job. If he lost his job, his family would have no money. But Herbert took the risk. He needed knowledge like he needed food. One day, Herbert's mother came to visit. She saw her son. She saw his face. She saw that he was unhappy. She saw that he was sick. The work was too hard for him. The air in the shop was bad for his health. He coughed often. He looked pale. His mother loved him. She did not want him to suffer. She talked to the owner. She talked to Herbert. They made a difficult decision. Herbert would leave the job. This was a scary moment. To leave a job without another job was very risky. It was dangerous for a poor family. But Herbert's mother believed in him. She knew he was smart. She knew he was special. So Herbert left the draper shop. He went back home for a short time. Then he found another job. This time, he became a teacher. He taught at a small school. He taught young children. He taught them reading. He taught them writing. This job was better than the shop. He was around books again. He was around learning again. But he was still not free. He was still poor. He still did not have a university education. He still felt like he was missing something big. During this time, Herbert read even more. He read science books. He read biology. He read about how animals live. He read about how the earth was formed. He began to have ideas. He began to imagine stories based on science. He thought about time. He thought about space. He thought about machines. Notice the vocabulary here. Biology is the study of living things. University is a high level of school. These words are important for your English. Write them down if you can. Herbert was not just reading. He was writing too. He wrote small articles. He wrote for school magazines. He practiced his skills. He wanted to be a writer, but he knew he needed more training. He needed to go to a higher school. He needed to study science properly. But how could he do that? He had no money. University was expensive. Only rich people could go. Herbert felt trapped again. He was a teacher, but he wanted to be a student. He was a worker, but he wanted to be a thinker. He looked at the sky. He looked at the stars. He wondered if he would ever reach them. He wondered if his dreams were too big. Many people told him to stop dreaming. They said, "You are poor. You should be happy with what you have." They said, "Do not try to fly. You will fall." But Herbert did not listen. He remembered the boy who broke his leg. He remembered the books that saved him. He knew that his mind was his power. No one could take his mind away. No one could stop his thoughts. So he kept studying. He kept reading late at night. He kept writing in his diary. He was preparing. He was waiting for a chance. Life is often like this. We wait for a chance. We work hard in the dark. We hope for the light. Herbert was in the dark now. But the light was coming. He did not know when. He did not know how. But he was ready. He was building his strength. He was building his knowledge. He was building his future, one page at a time. Think about your own life. Are you working hard now? Are you studying? Maybe you feel tired. Maybe you feel stuck. Remember Herbert. He was stuck in a cloth shop. He was stuck in a small school. But he did not give up. He kept his dream alive. This is the power of patience. This is the power of hope. Chapter 3. The Key That Opened the University Door. The year was 1884. Herbert was 18 years old. He was working as a teacher again. He was teaching in a small village. The village was quiet. The days were slow. But something exciting was happening. There was a competition. It was a scholarship competition. A scholarship is money given to a student to study. It is free money. You do not have to pay it back. This scholarship was for the Normal School of Science in London. It was a respected school. It was very hard to get in. Many smart boys wanted this scholarship. Only a few could win it. Herbert heard about the competition. His heart beat faster. This was his chance. This was the door he was waiting for. But he was afraid. He was just a village teacher. He was competing against boys from better schools. They had better books. They had better teachers. They had more time to study. Herbert had only his evenings. He had only his weekends. He decided to try. He had nothing to lose. If he failed, he would stay a teacher. If he succeeded, his life would change. So, he began to study. He studied every night. He studied biology. He studied physics. He studied mathematics. His eyes became tired. His head hurt. But he did not stop. He thought about the future. He thought about London. He thought about the big laboratories. As you listen, notice the phrase, nothing to lose. It means you are not risking anything important. It is a useful phrase when you decide to be brave. The day of the exam arrived. Herbert travelled to London. The city was big. It was loud. There were carriages on the streets. There were many people. Herbert felt small. He felt nervous. He walked into the exam room. He sat at a desk. He looked at the paper. The questions were hard, very hard. Some questions he did not know. His hands shook. He took a deep breath. He remembered his mother. He remembered the books under his bed. He began to write. He wrote for hours. He used all his knowledge. He used all his logic. When the time was up, he put down his pen. He walked out of the room. He did not know if he passed. He went back to his village. He waited. The waiting was the hardest part. Days passed. Weeks passed. Herbert tried to teach. He tried to work. But his mind was on the letter that would tell him the result. Then the letter came. Herbert opened it. His hands were trembling. He read the words. He read them again. He could not believe it. He had won. He had won the scholarship. He was going to the Normal School of Science. He was going to study in London. His life was changing. Imagine the feeling. Imagine the relief. Imagine the joy. Herbert was no longer a shop worker. He was no longer just a village teacher. He was becoming a university student. He packed his bags. He said goodbye to his mother. She was very proud. She cried happy tears. Herbert travelled to London. He started his new life. At the university, Herbert met an important man. His name was Thomas Henry Huxley. Huxley was a famous scientist. He was known as Darwin's bulldog. He strongly supported the ideas of evolution. Evolution is the idea that living things change over time. Herbert sat in Huxley's class. He listened to every word. Huxley was strict. He was serious. But he was brilliant. Herbert learned so much from him. He learned how to think like a scientist. He learned to look at evidence. He learned to ask questions. He learned that science was not just facts. It was a way of understanding the world. This changed Herbert's writing. He did not just write imaginary stories. He wrote stories based on scientific ideas. He used real science in his fiction. This made his stories feel real. This made people believe them. But university life was not easy. Herbert was still poor. He had money for school, but not much for living. He lived in a small room. He ate simple food. Sometimes he was hungry. Sometimes he was sick. He had a cough that would not go away. He worried about his health. He worried about his family. Also, he had trouble with some subjects. He was very interested in biology, but he had to study other subjects too. He had to study geology. He had to study astronomy. He found some of these less interesting. He wanted to write. He wanted to create. But the school wanted him to focus on exams. One day, Herbert failed an exam. He failed the geology exam. He was very upset. Because of this, he lost part of his scholarship. Later, he had to leave the school before he finished his degree. This was a big failure. Imagine working so hard. Imagine winning the competition. And then, failing at the end. Many people would give up. Many people would feel shame. But Herbert did not give up. He left the school, but he kept the knowledge. He kept the ideas. He kept the influence of his teacher, Thomas Henry Huxley. He realized something important. He did not need a degree to think, to imagine, or to create. He needed his ideas. He needed his voice. So, he decided to become a writer. He would use his knowledge of science to write stories. He would share his ideas with the world. This was a turning point. He was no longer just a student. He was becoming an author. He was becoming a creator. He moved to London permanently. He got a job as a journalist. He wrote articles for newspapers. He wrote about science. He wrote about education. He wrote about society. He was making money. He was building a name for himself. Think about this lesson. Failure is not the end. Herbert failed his exam, but that failure changed his path. If he had succeeded, he might have become a traditional scientist. He might never have written his famous stories. Sometimes, a closed door opens another door. Sometimes, a mistake leads to a better path. Do not fear failure, fear stopping, fear giving up. As long as you keep moving forward, you are still winning. Chapter 4. The Man Who Wrote the Future. Herbert was now living in London. He was working hard. He was writing articles. But he wanted to write something bigger. He wanted to write a book. He had an idea. It was a strange idea. It was about a machine that could move through time. Think about time. You can move left. You can move right. You can move forward. You can move back, but you cannot move in time. You cannot go to yesterday. You cannot go to tomorrow. Herbert imagined a machine that could do this. He called it the time machine. He began to write the story. He wrote in the evenings. He wrote after his journalism work. He wrote about a man who travels to the future. In the future, the world is different. There are two types of people. One type lives above the ground. They are soft and weak. The other type lives below the ground. They are strong and scary. This story was not just fun. It was a message. It was about rich people and poor people. It was about the future of humanity. Herbert finished the book. He sent it to a publisher. A publisher is a person who prints and sells books. The publisher liked it. He said yes. The book was published in 1895. It was a success. People loved it. They had never read a story like this before. It was exciting. It was scary. It was smart. This was the beginning of Herbert's fame. He did not stop there. He wrote more books. He wrote The Island of Dr. Moreau. This story was about a man who changes animals into humans. It was about pain and ethics. Ethics means knowing what is right and wrong. He wrote The Invisible Man. This story was about a man who cannot be seen. He used his power to do bad things. It was about power and corruption. Then he wrote his most famous book. It was called The War of the Worlds. Imagine this story. Martians come to Earth. Martians are aliens from the planet Mars. They have big machines. They have strong weapons. They attack London. They destroy buildings. People run away. People are afraid. It was a very scary story. People read this book and felt fear. They thought it could happen. Herbert wrote it so well. He used real places. He used real streets in London. He made it feel like news. He made it feel real. This book made him very famous. People all over the world knew his name. He was the father of science fiction. Science fiction is a genre of stories about future science. Herbert was successful. He had money now. He had a big house. He had cars. He traveled the world. He met important people. He met writers. He met politicians. He met kings. He was no longer the poor boy from Bromley. He was a man of influence. His words mattered. When he spoke, people listened. But Herbert was not just a writer of stories. He was a writer of ideas. He predicted the future. He wrote about airplanes before they existed. He wrote about tanks before they existed. He wrote about atomic bombs before they existed. He wrote about the internet before it existed. He called it a world brain. He imagined people sharing information instantly. How did he do this? He used his science knowledge. He looked at trends. He looked at how technology was growing. He used his imagination to connect the dots. He showed people what was possible. He warned them about dangers. He told them to be careful. As you listen, notice the word predict. It means to say what will happen in the future. Herbert was a predictor. He was a visionary. A visionary is someone who sees the future clearly. Herbert's life was busy. He wrote many books. He wrote essays. He gave speeches. He traveled to United States. He traveled to Russia. He met leaders. He talked about peace. He He talked about unity. He wanted the world to be one family. He did not want wars. He did not want countries to fight. He wanted science to help people, not hurt them. His personal life was also busy. He married a woman named Amy, but later he had relationships with other women. He had children. His life was complicated. He was not a perfect man. He made mistakes. He hurt people sometimes. But he always cared about humanity. He always cared about the future of the species. Think about his success. He started with nothing. He started with a broken leg and a cloth shop. Now, he was one of the most famous men in the world. This shows you that your start does not define your finish. You can start poor. You can start sick. You can start with no education. But if you have talent and work hard, you can rise. You can climb the mountain. Herbert enjoyed his success. But he knew it was not just about him. It was about the message. He used his fame to spread hope. He used his books to warn people. He said, "We can build a better world, but we must choose wisely." He put this idea in every story. He wanted readers to think. He wanted readers to dream. He wanted readers to prepare for the future. This chapter of his life was bright. It was full of achievement. It was full of energy. But the world was changing. The 20th century was beginning. And the 20th century would bring great darkness. Herbert would have to face it. He would have to use his voice one more time. Chapter 5. The Final Hope for Humanity. The year was 1914. The world changed forever. The First World War began. Countries started fighting. Millions of men went to battle. Millions of men died. It was a tragedy. Herbert was now an old man. He was nearly 50 years old. He watched the war with sadness. He saw his predictions coming true. He had written about war machines. Now he saw them in real life. He had written about destruction. Now he saw cities burning. It broke his heart. He wanted peace. He wanted unity, but the world chose violence. He wrote articles about the war. He tried to explain it. He tried to find a reason. But there was no good reason for so much death. After the war, the world was not the same. People were tired. People were angry. Herbert kept writing. He wrote a book called The Outline of History. It was a big book. It told the story of the whole world, from the beginning of life to the present day. He wanted people to understand where they came from. He wanted them to see that they were all connected. He wanted them to stop fighting. This book was very popular. People read it in many languages. It gave people hope. It showed them that humanity had survived many problems. It showed them that they could survive this too. Herbert was still fighting. He was not fighting with guns. He was fighting with words. His weapon was his pen. His battlefield was the mind of the reader. Then the years passed. Herbert grew older. His health became weak. He had been sick for many years. Now the sickness was stronger. He could not walk easily. He could not write as fast as before. But his mind was still sharp. He still had ideas. He still cared about the world. The Second World War began in 1939. This was even worse than the First War. New weapons were used. Cities were destroyed again. Herbert was very old now. He lived in London. He heard the bombs falling. He saw the sky full of smoke. He had written about this in The War of the Worlds. Now it was happening for real. It was not aliens. It was humans. Humans were destroying themselves. This was a tragic time for Herbert. He had spent his life warning people. He had spent his life preaching peace. And now the world was in fire. Did he feel failure? Maybe. Maybe he felt sad that people did not listen. Maybe he felt tired. But he did not stop hoping. In 1946, Herbert Wells died. He was 79 years old. He died in London. The war was over. The world was quiet again, but it was a quiet after a storm. Herbert left behind many things. He left behind his books. He left behind his ideas. He left behind his hope. His legacy is huge. Today, when we watch movies about aliens, we think of Wells. When we watch movies about time travel, we think of Wells. When we talk about science fiction, we talk about Wells. He created a genre. He created a way of thinking. He taught us to imagine the future. But his legacy is more than stories. His legacy is a warning. He told us that science is powerful. It can save us. It can also destroy us. It depends on how we use it. He told us that we must be wise. We must be kind. We must work together. If we do not, we might destroy ourselves. This message is still important today. Maybe it is more important today than ever. Think about the world now. We have technology. We have the internet. We have powerful machines. We have the ability to heal diseases. We also have the ability to make weapons. We are at the crossroads again, just like Herbert was. We must choose the right path. Herbert's life teaches us many lessons. First, never give up on your education. Even if you are poor, you can learn. Read books, ask questions, feed your mind. Second, do not fear failure. Herbert failed exams. He lost jobs, but he kept going. Failure is part of the journey. Third, use your talent for good. Herbert did not just write for money. He wrote to help people. He wrote to make the world better. Find your talent. Use it to help others. Fourth, always hope. Even in war, even in sickness, Herbert hoped for a better future. Hope is a powerful thing. It keeps us moving. As you listen to this ending, think about your own story. You are the writer of your life. You have the pen. What will you write? Will you write a story of fear, or will you write a story of courage? Will you write a story of hate, or will you write a story of love? Herbert Wells was a small boy with a broken leg. He became a giant of literature. He showed us that one person can change the world. One person can imagine a new future. You can be that person. You do not need to be rich. You do not need to be famous. You just need to care. You just need to try. The world needs dreamers. The world needs thinkers. The world needs people who see the future and work to make it bright. Herbert Wells was one of those people. Now, it is your turn. Take his lesson. Take his hope. Carry it forward. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope it helped you practice your English. I hope it helped you feel something. Stories are not just words. They are experiences. They are connections. When you listen to a story, you travel with the character. You learn from their life. You grow. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It helps other people find it. Please share it with a friend who loves English. We have many more stories for you. We want to help you learn. We want to help you grow. Now I want to ask you something. Think about Herbert's life. Think about his struggles and his successes. What is the biggest dream in your life right now? Is it to learn a new language? To travel? To write a book? To help your family? Think about this dream. Keep it in your mind. Do not let it go. Write your answer in the comments below. Tell us about your dream. Tell us why it is important to you. When you write it down, it becomes real. When you share it, you find support. We are a community here. We want to hear from you. We want to know your story. Many people will watch this video, but only a few will comment. Be one of them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for learning. Keep dreaming, keep listening, keep speaking. Goodbye for now.